Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and today we have a very amazing person to share with the world, Constance Santego. Constance, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andy. So nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on. In a minute, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you what has made you so awkward that you've had to learn how to own in order to get to where you are today. But before we do that, can you share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
I'd love to. Thank you. Well, I've been into the holistic arts for about 22 years, and I years ago owned a accredited college, and I used to teach all this stuff, and that was back in about, up until about 2012, and then took a little time off and went back to school for massage therapy. And then came back and started a practice again, and then now I've decided, no, I want to go into public speaking, and so then now I'm into doctor of natural medicine and going for my doctorate. So
awesome.
All into quantum medicine.
You have a lot going on, definitely kind of all around holistic healing and like you said, holistic arts. Definitely very healthy lifestyle and healthy mindset.
Definitely, yeah.
So
I love the body, mind, soul.
And we will, in the description here, we'll have links to where people can find you. But you have an event coming up, don't you? That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, thank you. We do. So Suzanne Bandick and I are hosting. She's a guest speaker for me for Think Big, Dream Bigger. But I call it the Inner Genie Mastery, and it's in Las Vegas, coming up in a week here, March 29th through 31st at the Westgate Resort and Casino. And I call it Inner Genie Mastery because to me it's all about the subconscious mind and how to awaken, unlock, and then reprogram and shift. My tagline is shift happens, create magic. And so it's all on there's 5 kind of basic steps that really happen to manifestation, and it's to get people on a whole nother level. It's more on quantum energy and moving the energy, but through a whole different way.
Wow. So someone who goes this, and I believe you said there's still some spots. If people are listening to this week, they could still get on board and make it.
Yeah. Yes, there is. There's still a few spots for sure.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So, and if you aren't able to make this one, definitely pay attention because there will be more great events like this. But it sounds to me like this is the type of event where someone's going to attend and actually kind of learn how to make huge changes in their lives happen just from understanding how things work.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely is. It starts more with a little bit more into the meditation and hypnosis. So it's using the body to be able to get into the subconscious. And then it's actually, too, you're learning how to use what I call 4 different celestial languages. So audio, knower, visual, and feeler. So earlier when we were talking about visualization, not actually everybody can visualize. So some people can feel it. Some people do see it, but some people actually more hear it kind of thing. But then some people actually just need time. They got to understand it. They're more like a little researcher, and I call those people knowers. So there's actually 4 different ways to access that information and then to pull it in and move that energy into your body so that you, like whoever, can actually use that knowledge for their benefit.
You know, that so helpful to know. I'm so glad that you broke it down, that there are different styles and ways to get to that visualization, because before we started this call, I was sharing with you that I have tried to visualize, and I feel like I'm not seeing it. I'm really trying to see it, and then I watch another YouTube video or learn a different way, and I realize, I wasn't thinking about how I would feel in the moment, and knowing that you're going to be at an event where someone can help you through those, so that you can find, well, maybe you need to kind of hear it or use another sensory in order to actually experience that visualization. That makes so much sense, and is so freeing to know that it's not just that I can't imagine things the right way.
You're definitely not. There's no good or bad. All four are just different. So the secret is finding out your way, not somebody else's way, but the way that you access.
Right. And it's interesting you mentioned kind of relaxing and meditation, using your body in order to get in touch with your mind, because I think I'm watching the wrong YouTube channel sometimes. I look for things and I go look up how to do something, and I had tried to meditate, and I had tried it. It never really worked for me, but I was at a conference about a month ago, and for the beginning of one of the seminars, they did meditation, and that's the first time where I really concentrated correctly on my breathing patterns, to where I could feel the physical difference in my body and the clarity in my mind. And it was such an empowering feeling that when we started the session, I just had such a clear thinking, because I was able to actually make that connection I had never made before.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah.
So yeah. So I'm really excited that what I'm trying to say is I'm really excited that you're doing that for people and bringing this all in together, because so many people, I think, are like myself, where we want to try to get to a higher level, higher thinking, higher awareness, but haven't necessarily gotten there the way that we've tried on our own. And so you just can't beat being in person at an event.
True. Definitely true. There's many people that say, "Oh, you're so different in real life than on video."
Oh, right. Yeah, it's a little misleading, because with so much social media, we feel like we know people already, because we see people on video. We see people. They don't have to be a TV star anymore to see them before we meet them, and then you meet in person, and it's like, really, are you really here?
Yeah.
So, Constance, what is that thing that you have been awkward about, that you've had to learn how to own to get to where you are today?
To be honest, I think the awkward that I at the moment would have to say is owning up to the intuitive part, to my, I'm going to say the abilities to be able to sense things that other people don't sense. And of course, people word those things as psychic, or I don't know. You get sometimes negative words that come with it, but
sure.
I think the awkward is actually the intuitive. And so as I'm learning, it's not awkward. Like, it's starting to become not awkward. It still is. But it's, hey, how you doing? I'm intuitive.
Right.
It just doesn't quite happen that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because intuition is such a blessing, and yet I've never thought about that as something that someone could be awkward about, but I can understand how that can really kind of, you'd have to gain your confidence in that, and you could also kind of set people apart, kind of set them off where they put up their wall if you are too comfortable with them too soon.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, did you have moments where you felt like you kind of stumbled through it originally?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't know until I was into my 30s that I even had some abilities, and I didn't even know what they were back then. And of course, then my family thought I joined a cult, and oh goodness, yeah, it was pretty crazy 20-some years ago.
So what was that like, trying to convince people that were close to you that you were discovering you had these gifts?
Oh, I guess scary.
Yeah.
It almost caused a divorce between my husband and I until he took a class and started being able to speak the same kind of language so that he understood, so that we could talk about it. But to me, it's kind of like I don't know, I'm going to call it a quantum leap. It's like where everything's normal one day and all of a sudden the next day weird things happen and you have no explanation for them, and then things that you know that you shouldn't know, and things that you can do that you shouldn't be able to do, because people say it, and I guess that's what this. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And it's interesting because I'm just picturing like, not to dumb it down, but like the Spider-Man, where he wakes up all of a sudden he can shoot a Spidey string, and it's like, wait, where'd that come from? I just that sudden awareness that there's an ability that you have that isn't something you've been aware of before, or something that you've trained and practiced to do. You think about skills as such a given that you don't think about them being something that would necessarily undermine how you feel, and that's kind of scary.
Scary. It actually put me back into religion for a little while, because I had to go figure out, okay, am I possessed? And do I got some kind of negative thing happening? Why why is my mom or other people going, something's not right, when it just feels natural all of a sudden, but everybody else is judging it. So, yeah.
Right. It's hard, too, to step into accepting yourself separate from the judgment of other people kind of coming along the same journey.
Okay. Well, depending, if they're on the same journey, then it's easy. But if they're not on the same journey and they don't believe in that stuff, that's where it gets hard. Because then they're judging or trying to get you to prove it to them, and it's kind of like that thing, whatever you believe is going to be real. And so if they don't believe, that actually is going to be real for them, because they don't believe it. So they're never going to be able to believe it.
Yeah. And I imagine, too, it's not like a parlor trick where you can just hold up your hand behind your back and say, tell me how many fingers I'm holding up. You necessarily don't have control when it's working for you and when it's not. So you can't just say, well, I'm going to prove to you right now by telling you what you ate for breakfast or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. If I had a few people in the room, it would be different, because somebody in that room is going to let me into their, energy. But,
I see.
But not necessarily the person asking.
I see. So, it comes down to kind of the whole energy level that each individual person is giving off. So, I know you mentioned that your husband took a class in order to kind of speak the same language, and it sounds like you've gotten through that with your family. How did you get through that scariest time where you didn't know what was going on, and you're at the brink of divorce and stuff? What was that like?
Yeah, that wasn't fun. Well,
I bet not.
I had gone and taken the class for a whole different reason, and because weird things were happening. And, of course, when weird things start happening or you start questioning life, right? And so then you go searching, and so you pick up one idea and you search, you go research that, and if that isn't it, then you go research something else, and finally I kind of got some answers, but those answers really opened up a Pandora's box for me. And then with it, there was a few weeks there that was actually a couple months that he just thought I went AWOL, like I just went crazy for him, like he just didn't understand a word I was saying. And so finally, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'm so glad that you were able to get through that, though, because that sounds so scary.
Yeah. Well, we kind of made an ultimatum. I would do one thing, and if he would go take this class, and so he went and took the class, and so that he could
Mhm.
he could understand where I was coming from.
Oh, good. Well, and that's the thing is, you're in a relationship and you change over the years and you want to be there for each other, and it comes down to understanding the other person's changes and needing to, compromise isn't always about, the hardcore drawing lines in the sand and I'm going to give and take here. It's about what do I need to do in order to support and learn more about wherever my partner's going through and where they're at.
Well, definitely the two energies have to mix, yeah.
Mhm.
So meaning that
And
two
so,
people, yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say with the two energies, right? Like, so if it's a husband and wife or whoever, it could be kids and parents and it could be teacher and student, whatever. But if two energies have totally opposite thinkings or two different routes that they're taking, two different pathways, and those paths, if they can't cross again, then they're going to go separate ways, right? So it's either to learn
Right.
how to bring that energy back together. And that's part of what's happening in Las Vegas is bringing that info back together so that people can get the real basis. I mean, you don't go study something for 22 years and have nothing to say about it. So
right. Well, and that you're really making me think about it a whole new angle, for me, a new angle on the flow of energy too. It's that it's not just about being aware of the energy, but how to harness it, and which is kind of, I guess, what you said at the beginning. It's first you need to find out where your energy is and where it's going and what you're in harmony with in order to even figure out how to make it work for you.
Yeah. Andy, I have what I call, there's 5 steps to it. And the first step, I call it subconscious, your subconscious mind. And to me, it's just about the most important. And so the story that I give people is kind of like pretend you're going to go swimming, right? And so pretend there's a lake or something, and you and a friend are thinking about going swimming. Well, there was a thought that came prior to going to, like, thinking about it, right? So if you back it up, you were probably hot, or like there was a subconscious thought of the thought of going swimming.
Sure.
So
yeah, that spark had to start somewhere.
Right. So it goes from unconscious and then to me to conscious, so that you're now thinking about it. But then it goes to action. And so action to me is all the steps it takes to get to manifestation, right? So that would be, phoning your friend, getting your towel, your bathing suit, hopping in the vehicle, however you're getting down to the water. And then you didn't manifest though until you actually went into the water and swam. But then what you have, and you being a counselor too, is then what you have is, was it a good experience or a bad experience? So those are the 5 steps, right? And so the experience of it is going to have it create again or not create again. And so what I find is with the unconscious, with the subconscious mind, which I call the inner genie, is with the subconscious mind, it's the part that dictates everything in our life. And so if we can actually master that subconscious, we can manifest and we can create whatever destiny that we're choosing then.
Yeah. It's kind of the key holder or the gatekeeper to everything. I was writing this down. I was writing these steps down as you were explaining it because I had to, picture the flow. I'm very visual sometimes. And it's so if your conscious never allows it to even get to that point to where you feel hot or you feel like you want to go jump in the water, your mind won't even let you think about it in order to go do it.
Exactly. No, like in wintertime, I don't even, living by a lake, but in the winter, I never think about swimming. Summertime, I think about it all the time.
Sure. Yeah, and that makes sense, because, but you're right. It's all that behind the scenes stuff that you're not waking up going, what am I going to do today? Oh, I'm going to go jump in a lake. But something triggers that feeling, and that might be on the list because yesterday your subconscious was working that direction.
Mhm. I mean, then it works into everything, right? Into your health, into your wealth, into your happiness. it doesn't matter which intent a person's going for, it always comes down to the subconscious.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It's so eye-opening. I'm new to learning a lot about manifesting and visualization, and like I shared earlier, I've been trying and I'm learning more. I'm still figuring out. I when you were talking about the 4 different ways that people manifest or can visualize, it made me think of like the book The Love Languages, where it's like I need to figure out my visualization language. But it gives me hope that it's like just because you try it and aren't getting the result you want, it doesn't mean that the result isn't there. It's you got to figure out how to unlock that subconscious, like you said, unlock that genie.
Well, I'll give you a hint to it. So, and if you go back to how you learned in school, like how you learned to do something in school, so you know how some kids can watch it, so they're very good at art, and they'll just copy, right? They'll just see it and copy it. Where some kids literally have to touch it and do it. And then some kids have to read it, and they'll talk about it, they'll blah, 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 right? They're always talking. So, and then there's the kids that don't want to be noticed, right? They look like they're shy or slow or whatever word you want, but really what they are is internalizing, and then they go home, research like crazy, but they need time. But usually those ones are the brilliant ones. They're the ones that remember it for life.
Okay.
So depending how you
I've got to do some soul searching here on this one and think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So depending how a person is, it once you know those, then the rest of it just starts opening up.
All right. But yeah. Well, that's some good homework. I gotta do some self actualization and realizing here on becoming a little more self aware on where to start in that. But I love that. All right. So now obviously, you're kind of beyond where you're not afraid of being intuitive anymore, and you're helping other people. Now, when you're helping people, is the kind of people that should be reaching out to you or following you, do they need to be people who think they're intuitive? Is this for everybody? Who's the right kind of person to benefit from learning from you?
I guess anybody who wants to better their life. No, they don't have to be intuitive. Actually, since 1999, I was teaching a class that I call it Intuitive Life. And, oh goodness, over the years, there's thousands of students, and there wasn't one that can't do it. I've never met a person who isn't intuitive. They just didn't know how they were intuitive. So once they learned their way, once you know how to access and jump in there, it's easy.
Okay.
But you have to learn your way.
So there's an element of it there for everybody. Yeah. Okay. And now, is this different than the talk that we hear about emotional intelligence, or is that on a similar line?
You're talking about quantum physics, emotional intelligence?
Well, I just know they talk about having an EQ or an emotional IQ instead of just intellectual, and a lot of it comes down to soft skills as far as in business when you're reading a room and working with people. But to me, that all equates to intuition. So I was just wondering if you've seen any lines drawn between that in the world.
I think, to be honest, it's just different lingo, right? It's all the same stuff, just different words. And so, like the business world, I mean, to be able to talk to somebody in the business world, you just talk whatever language they need to. So really, for them to manifest wealth, it still comes down to their subconscious mind, right? Like it's still the same.
Yeah.
And it's just like the big sports people that are pro sports. a lot of them have mind coaches, right? Like it still comes down to what they really believe deep in their heart, what they think they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, my son was training to be a police officer, and as he was going through the training, one of the things he was sharing with me was that one of the things he learned in the physical training was that, you're ready to give up 30% before you physically can give up, but mentally your mind stops before you physically would give out. And you can always push yourself further. And it really does come down to that truth that you hear everybody talk about when they're training hard, that it's the mental battle is actually harder than the physical battle.
Well, you know that you probably have seen that little cartoon, and it's these two frogs in a bucket of milk. And the one frog says to the other, "Oh, I can't go anymore." They're both trying to jump out, right? And the one frog says, "No, you can do it, right?" And then finally the one frog just gives up, and the other one keeps going, and it turns into butter, and he jumps out. You've probably heard those.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've seen. Yeah.
So you're right, the mental.
And it's funny because you might not, like for the frogs, the way that you got out might not have been what you planned, because the one frog is only thinking that the only way out is to figure out how to jump further or somehow get up the side of the glass or the jar. Yet here's this other way that which frogs know that when you turn it that much, it turns into butter. It's like there's a gift presented that actually makes it work out that wasn't even on your radar necessarily, which I think is so true in life. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now we just have a couple minutes left. Yeah, go ahead. We have a couple minutes left, so I was going to ask you whatever wisdom you've got to leave with the listeners before we take off.
I would definitely say that wherever a person is in their life, if they're still focusing forward, go forward. So it might shift of how they have to go forward. It's kind of like myself now going for the Doctor of Natural Medicine is for my big goal, I just need that the name that goes with it. I need some more credential, right, to go with the knowledge. So meaning even if it feels like I have to back up, go back to school, but eventually I'll get to where I'm going to go.
Right. Yeah, that's such a beautiful point, because we sometimes feel like we're shifting our aim back to the horizon that we were walking away from, but it is all forward in where we're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing. So Constance, where's the best place for people to find you? We'll add it into the description as well, but where are you the most active for people to follow you and keep up with your events?
Instagram, Facebook. If you go onto the Constance Santego or constancesantego.ca, any of those. Right now it's all publicized on there. And then, of course, any updated, anyone that's coming or the ones that are, in the future, the new events that we'll be hosting will be listed also. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. Perfect. Well, I look forward to getting to one of these so I can meet you in person sooner than later. Definitely look forward to that, and I will definitely practice what I've learned just on this call as well as from following you. You put out some good stuff. Definitely, I follow Constance on Instagram and I think also on Facebook, and the messages that you put out are so positive. So I'd encourage everybody to go out and do that. So click on the links that'll be in the description here, and look forward to learning more on this journey. So thank you so much, Constance.
Thank you, Andy. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you on. Have a great day, and good luck with your event.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.